Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Made for More podcast. It's your host, Ally Nitschke, and I am very excited to say that this is actually the wrap-up episode for season 5. So season 5 has been all around leadership your way. We've had some remarkable guests over this past season, as well as a new segment which is called Ally Speaks, and that is really all around answering some of the questions I get asked or some of my favorite topics to talk on. So I thought today we'd do a bit of a wrap up. If you are new to tuning in, welcome. It's nice to have you here. If you're seasoned, perhaps you might have missed an episode or would like to go back and check it out. As always, please feel free to share this far and wide to your friends. I love hearing when either people have listened to the podcast, my clients are listening to the podcast. It's such a beautiful gift to be able to share some amazing guests with you, as well as some leadership insights and expertise from people around the world. So I think we might just dive straight on into today's episode. I'm going to go through each episode and who were the guests and what the topics were. Take note if you want to go back to any, and let's do it. Welcome to the Made for More podcast. I'll be sharing my experiences along with some actionable advice to take your leadership to the next level. Introducing your host, it's me, Ally Nitschke. I'm a leadership and courageous conversations expert, a Nutella lover, a mother of 4 young boys, a wife, and a dance floor junkie. I'm here to give you the motivation you need to level up, lead yourself, lead your team, and your business. Let's go. Season 5, episode 66. Actually, I cannot believe we have been going live with the podcast for 2+ years now. It's pretty remarkable when you think about the work that goes in. So I do want to just say a big thank you to my exceptional team who pull this together. I come in for the glory and do the recording, and my team work tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure that it gets shipped out to you all so that you can listen in and watch, as well as making sure that we share it on our socials as well. So a massive thank you to my amazing team who make me look good, which is wonderful. So episode 66, we kicked off Leadership Your Way season 5, and this is really around exploring some of those diversities and the diverse approach to leadership and how that can impact people, both from, I guess, the relationships, but also the transformative impact too. If you've heard me speak before, if you've been to one of our courses and workshops and programs, you'll often hear me say, take what you need and leave what you don't. There is no one size fits all when it comes to leadership. And I think it's really important that we start recognizing that and also celebrating that as well. So throughout each of these episodes, it's very much having a bit of a deep dive into who and how people lead, particularly as we go into this new era of leadership. I'm calling it the rise of the courageous leader. I think we need more leaders that are courageous, are bold, are more empathetic, are kind, are caring. But it's definitely, I'm seeing a huge shift into how leaders want to lead, but also more importantly is what people will tolerate and what people are looking for from their leaders as well. So episode 66 is all around kind of setting up season 5, unraveling some of those remarkable stories of some of the unconventional leaders and leadership and how they have got to where they are today. So episode 67, this actually had a beautiful guest with me, Karen Brown. So I met Karen at a networking event in Brisbane, and she just nearly blew my socks off with her tenacity and her approach to leadership. She is definitely one of those standout leaders, both in her profession, but also in her industry as well. So episode 67, which was the most important leadership skills for 2023 and beyond. And And Karen and I really unpacked the unique qualities of professional athletes as leaders and entrepreneurs. So Karen has a background as a professional athlete, and how do those skills that you acquire through acquiring to be the best of the best transfer into leadership, becoming an elite leader, as well as entrepreneurship as well. So this interview with Karen, as I mentioned, absolute rock star. She's an award-winning pharmacist, an entrepreneur, and also the founder of a remarkable company called Batch Tested, which is all around supporting athletes to make sure that they are well and truly within any of those drug testing that happens for elite athletes. So making sure that they have access to supplements, for example, that don't have anything in there that shouldn't be in there that they're not aware of. And I think something that was a real standout for me in this conversation with Karen was her ability to wear multiple hats and her insights into effective leadership. And you know what? Just getting things done. Her execution is amazing. She's one of those people, as we say, find a busy person and give them the things to do. She gets a lot done in a very condensed amount of time. She's prolific with the way that she leads her team, leads her business, and her approach to pharmacy, both with the industry, but also really within her community as well. So if you are someone who loves pharmacy, loves exceptional leaders, just real high performers and high achievers, tune into episode 67 with Karen Brown, because it is a goodie. Let's move on. Episode 68. This was, again, another interview with a wonderful gentleman, Clifford Morgan. And this episode 68 is how to become a coaching leader and help create the next generation of leaders. So you may or may not be familiar with the term of coach. Often we relate it to sporting, but more and more this is becoming prolific in the corporate world, in the leadership world. Is leaders are now recognizing that actually they can't get to where they need to be going all by themselves. We cannot work in silos. We cannot work in a container. And Cliff really talks around, how do we bring coaching as a leadership skill into the workplace. So he talks around some of the challenges of the first months in leadership, and also like the challenges that they face where we go, oh gosh, I've hit my first leadership snafu, and what am I going to do? It's either sink or swim here. Some of the most remarkable leaders that I've met over the years are the ones that go, well, I am in well and truly over my head, and I'm just going to have to figure it out. And I think it's that tenacity and that ability to go, okay, well, I've got a problem, but actually let's focus on those solutions is really good as well. So this interview with Cliff, he's actually a former member of the Royal Australian Air Force, and he's also currently the director of Lumion Consulting. So he looks at how do we bring coaching or coaching leadership into the workplace, but also around developing the pipeline of leaders and empowering employees as problem solvers. I'll never forget one of the most influential leaders that I've ever had over time, and this must have been 2005, I reckon, era. And he said to me one day, he said, "Don't come to me with your problems, come to me with your solutions." And it was the first time that I was like, yes, actually, problem solving is a key part of leadership, and your ability to go out of, oh my gosh, we're in the problem, whose fault is it, to going, okay, actually, as a leader, how do we solve this problem? So that's episode 68 with Clifford, and it's remarkable talking about how do we introduce coaching as a modality within the leadership realm. Episode 69, why great leadership is much more than your title. So this is again with another guest, Renee Draper. I met her, I've known about her for a long time. She's quite well known in Adelaide in South Australia, but I heard her speak for the first time at a conference that I was emceeing, and it was around women in leadership. And it was a conference in Adelaide, but she came in and apparently she hadn't spoken to a live audience for quite some time, combination of COVID and being prolific and efficient and, dare I say it, busy in her own working. But holy smokes, she was an absolute pocket rocket. She really talked about kind of looking after yourself first, not necessarily first, looking after yourself so that you can perform at the very best. So to kind of shifting the narrative around martyrism and going, actually, I need to make sure that I am putting my own oxygen mask on first. And what am I doing to light myself up? What is the intention? She was a remarkable speaker, very, very dynamic, very, very energetic. and a breath of fresh air as well, and makes you think, oh gosh, what else is possible? So we talked around the changing dynamics of leadership and the need for earning respect regardless of age and or title. And I think this is a tricky one because having been someone who led at a very young age, where most of my team were 20 plus years older than me, we do need to be able to adapt as a leader to some of those changing environments, and maybe some of the biases around age, some of the biases around what is your title and how do we work together. But really fascinating with how Renee worked with her team to be able to do that. She's come very quickly through her leadership journey and reached sort of the pinnacle of leadership very early on in her career. So Renee Draper, if you're not familiar with her, is the Chief People Officer at Peregrine Corporation here in Adelaide. And her focus is really around creating a strong people culture, learning the value of respect beyond titles, and also the benefits of having a structure in life. And I think I often will talk to my clients about sometimes we need that structure to be able to give us the freedom to flex and bend and the agility to take a knock or two when it comes our way. But the more that we can structure and have some kind of systems in place for our own personal lives, the more that we are better able to adapt and equip ourselves as well. So that conversation with Renee was fantastic. Absolutely loved having her as a guest on the show. Next up was episode 70. So this again was with another guest named Dr. Eva Balin-Vanook, and this was really around public versus private sector leadership. So many of you know, if you've been listening for a little while, I started off my professional career as a professional ballet dancer before going into a private banking and finance, and then having a bit of a burnout before shifting into the public sector. And I found the experience quite different, quite challenging. The pace, the conversations, the leadership, lack of leadership, and speaking with Dr. Eva was amazing, because she is one of those people that I think has adapted sort of private leadership into the public sector and is absolutely thriving. Her team is thriving. They're probably one of the most high performing teams in the government. Well, I mean, I don't know that for sure, but based on what she said, it sounds like they are kicking some serious goals. So we talked a little bit around leading teams in government agencies versus some of those private organizations, i.e. like Microsoft. The interview with Eva was really enlightening. So she's actually the Chief Information Officer at the Department of Premier and Cabinet for the SA government, but she also has a few other interests as well, particularly around getting women and young girls into STEM and into IT. So there's a couple of initiatives there. And we also talked about the insights into government work, maintaining leadership standards. I loved this conversation, and also coping with that culture shock and some of her most valuable leadership lessons along the way. So if you work in the public sector, I would highly recommend you tune into episode 70, because it's an absolute cracker. Really disrupts your thinking around what's possible for leadership, partnerships, negotiation, all of those types of things. And Eva was amazing. Episode 71 is all around influence is the new currency of leadership. So this is part of our Ally Speaks segment. No guests, just me. And this is really where I unpack the power of influence and how it impacts our success when it comes to leadership. So I also, if you're not familiar, write a weekly newsletter that goes out to our community, and this is certainly a hot topic when it comes up, all around influence. And I think influence is really linked to communication and also our connection to others in the workplace. So I talk about, the power of influence, impacting organizational results through behavioral changes and being inspiring. How can we be more inspiring as a leader, as well as customizing influence, building trust, and making others successful as influential leaders? So that is episode 71. Influence is the new currency of leadership, with yours truly. Episode 72, the role of transformational leadership in academic institutions. I had the pleasure of having Professor Jenny Shaw on the show, and she really talked about leadership in the world of academia and how this has changed over the years, but also the amidst changes throughout the world, throughout the globe, and what she's seeing there as well. Professor Jenny Shaw is the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Vice President of Academics at Uni of Adelaide. She also explores leadership styles in academia. If you've worked in higher education, you will know it's a different game there, as well as some of the challenges throughout higher education and intriguing thoughts on some of her own personal leadership. Absolutely amazing. Loved having a chat with Professor Shaw. I've known her for a number of years now, and very, very insightful, very eloquent and articulate when it comes to talking about all things leadership. So episode 72 there, around the role of transformational leadership in academic institutions. Episode 73, this one was around the end of the financial year. So this one was called Reflect, one of the most powerful practices for leaders. Again, this is one of the segments for Ally Speaks. And this, I really unpack the importance of taking a beat. So stop, take a beat, turn around, let's reflect. Let's, even more importantly, celebrate. So often when we're right in the midst of busy, we forget that we actually need to stop, collaborate and listen. No, I'm just kidding. We need to stop and take time to go, hey, let's just do a bit of a review. What's happened over the last 6 months? What's happened over the last 12 months? Whatever cadence works for you. But take a moment to reflect on what has been, and also actually just take some time to celebrate. So often we're on to the next thing on the list, but making sure that you take time to celebrate how far you've come. Perhaps you've overcome something. Perhaps you haven't taken a beat. And I do it too. I'm guilty of this. We're on to the next thing, but actually stopping and taking a chance to celebrate is so, so important for our own well-being, but also to recognize how far we've come, because we sometimes get so caught up with how far we have left to go. I also go through our Made for More success wheel and its 8 buckets. So the various areas of the success wheel and the 8 areas of life that I like to work with my clients to measure where they're up to and how they're feeling. Some of the topics that are included in the success wheel is family, brain power, health, productivity, learning, finances, fun, and also your physical environment and your surrounds and how that can impact you as well and set you up for success. This one does have a download. So if you want to go to episode 73, check out the show notes there. We've got a little workbook if you're thinking, yes, I need to work on my 8 areas of success to set me up for the next half of the year. Absolutely jump in and download that and get crack-a-lackin'. Episode 74 is how to develop courageous and servant leadership. This was with a guest, Sarah Morse, and this is really around becoming a servant leader and its importance in the modern world of leadership. We also talked about the significance of courage in leadership and its benefits in the workplace. As you know, I love talking about courage. I'm obsessed with courage and anything that goes, okay, how do we embody a bit of courage in the workplace? So this was a wonderful conversation with Sarah. Sarah is also a professional speaker, a healthcare professional, and we were discussing some of the service and courageous leadership qualities, living values as a leader, and developing personal values. Episode 75 was around, this was again me, Ally Speaks, and this was actually a preview of my first book, Rise of the Courageous Leader. This first came out in 2022 and had been on my list of podcast episodes for too long, but we got there in the end. So this episode number 75 is really introducing the book Rise of the Courageous Leader and its 3 pillars of leadership, which is self-awareness, team awareness, and organizational awareness. If you are interested, you can get a copy. Shameless plug here. You can get a copy on the website madeformore.com.au/book. You can find it on Amazon, Booktopia, all of the places where you get your reading material, and there will be an audio version coming out at some stage in the future. I'll keep you posted. But this is really, I guess this is my first book, obviously. And we talk, or as I went through it and the writing process, it really unpacks a lot of my personal experiences in leadership. So for those of you who don't know, I've been doing, air quotes, leadership for nearly 20 odd years now, and have had the pleasure of leading wonderful teams, leading absolutely shocking teams, leading small teams, leading large teams, large projects, some of those significant programs as well. So it does unpack a lot of my own experiences through leadership, and also using some of the courageous conversations to address those less fun workplaces, sometimes called toxic environments. But really, a lot of the emphasis throughout the book, throughout my own experience, throughout the trainings that we do, the transformational programs that we do, the coaching, the mentoring, is really emphasizing the importance of conviction and courage and adapting to change, while also building relationships and focusing on impact and legacy. So if you are interested to learn more about Rise of the Courageous Leader, head to the website and check that out as well. Episode 76. This again is another segment of Ally Speaks, and this one is all around boundaries. So last year I spoke at a conference, and the organisers asked me to speak on boundaries, and I thought, okay, this seems a little bit basic. It turns out people knew about boundaries, they just didn't really know what to do with boundaries. So one of the things I'm most known for as a speaker is around some of that like pragmatic, personal, practical stuff, tactile stuff that you can use straight away. So it's unlikely that you just see models and ideas and concepts. I'm very much around, what can you do right now, or as soon as you leave the room, to start getting some runs on the board. And that's what the keynote was about last year on boundaries, and that's what episode 76 is about as well. So we're having a look at the importance of boundaries for mental health and preventing burnout. As many of you know, I hit burnout at age 26, so we want to make sure that we prevent that where possible. Some of the tips for setting boundaries based on your personal needs and issues: encouragement to flex your courage muscle for tough conversations, and the significance of effective communication when setting boundaries. We're very good at thinking about our boundaries in our own mind, not as good at letting people know about them as well. So episode 76, if you struggle with setting boundaries, that's the one for you. And if you're thinking that you need to get better at communicating your boundaries, whether it's at work or at home, check out episode 76 there as well. Episode 77 is all around goal setting. Again, another episode and segment of Ally Speaks, but this is really having a look at the journey of goal setting, the importance of it. I've been a goal setter since way back when, but I wanted to introduce some of these ideas if you're new to goal setting, or perhaps you're looking to your goal setting practice. But this has a look at the importance of having goals for direction, focus, and a little bit of purpose, the purpose of life. So the episode has a look at introducing some of the methods like the SMART goals, so SMART. It has a look at the GROW model, GROW, the WHOOP WHOOP. That's the hype model. No, I'm just kidding. That's how we can set different goals, as well as the hard goal framework. The emphasis is really on dynamic and adaptable nature of goal setting. So again, take what you need, leave what you don't. There is no one size fits all. But if you are looking to finesse your goal setting practice, absolutely tune in to episode 77 and go from there. Episode 78 is exploring feminine power, so unleashing the potential of modern leadership with Josephine Palermo. You'll need to listen to the episode of how to pronounce it, because I cannot wrap my tongue around the R. But this was a really fascinating episode. I'm actually getting Josephine back in for part 2, or the follow-up, because we could have just unpacked for hours on end. But this conversation is really around exploring the femininity and feminine power in the workplace and leadership roles. And I know for many of you that are listening and tuning in, you're quietly cheering, because I think we don't talk about this enough. As we know, gender equality is still a huge topic and problem right now in the workplace, and is set to be a problem for quite a little bit longer, 100 years they're estimating. But what can we be doing to support femininity and feminine power in the workplace. So this is a brilliant conversation with Josephine. We also talk about the emphasis on relational capabilities and creating a collaborative work environment. I think that's key, as well as some of the changes faced by executives, the importance of self-reflection, open dialogue, and advocating for effective leadership as well. So if this is something that piques your interest, is a passion piece of yours, or actually just wanting to understand feminine power a little bit more, definitely tune into episode 78. It's an absolute cracker, and it went by just so, I clicked then, I don't know if you can hear that, so quickly, which is why I'm getting Josephine back on the show in a season or two to unpack the next iteration of this. Episode 79 is all around building self-awareness and effective communication. So I had a guest here, Mel Kettle. She's a leadership expert in communication as well. We have very similar topics, but very different approaches. But we talked about the importance of understanding pain points and effective communication. So what is it that your people need/want? What is their problems? And how can we communicate that effectively so that we're actually answering and meeting some of those pain points? Mel also goes through some of her tips for self-awareness, connection in personal and professional settings, and also essential advice for new leaders starting a brand new job. So once again, this is the season 5 wrap-up. We'll be kicking off season 6 next week. But I do want to say a big thank you, as I mentioned at the beginning, to my team, and of course a huge thank you to the incredible guests and experts that have been on the show throughout season 5. Of course, the podcast could not happen without them and their generous time sharing their expertise and giving a voice and perspective to leadership around the world. If you are wanting to tune in for season 6, I highly recommend that you do. Season 6 is actually a bit of a different season to what we've done in the past. As many of you know, with our programs that we run, even when I speak on stages and keynotes at conferences, I'm often asked a lot of questions. So yes, Ally, love it, but how do I insert X problem and then make that work for X team? So what we've actually done is collected a number of these FAQs, frequently asked questions, whether it's from training, whether it's from coaching, whether it's through platforms like Menti that have happened when I've been speaking at a conference. But we've put them all together, and season 6 is actually around your frequently asked questions. So I'll answer these as best as I can with the information that I have and can remember. But of course, this is my perspective. And what I would be letting my clients know are some options around how do we do X, Y, and Z. Of course, if you've got any questions, burning questions that you would like me to add into season 6, can you please email me or email the team? It's podcast@madeformore.com.au. If you have an FAQ or just a regular question, not even a frequently asked question, a question for leadership that you would like me to ask throughout season 6, because it is all around what are your leadership questions? What's going on? What's the problem? So please let me know. Thank you very much for being here. The wrap up of season 5. I can't believe we are here already. Please make sure that you share this if you like it on wherever you have your podcast streaming, and of course leave us a review, and if you do have any FAQs, shoot us a message, shoot us an email at podcast@madeformore.com.au. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode on the Made for More podcast, please make sure you subscribe to receive future episodes. And of course, 5-star reviews are always welcome on the Apple Podcast. If you'd like a copy of the show notes or any of the links mentioned today, check out madeformore.com.au/podcast. And of course, if we aren't connected already, you can find me in all the usual places. Ally Nitschke on LinkedIn, ally.madeformore on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you have an awesome week, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye-bye.